thank Ms. Yellen for being, Secretary Yellen for being here today. Statutorily, you're required to be here before the Financial Service Committee to talk about international financial system. We appreciate your willingness to do that. I wish you would be the same attentive to what you're supposed to be doing with the Small Business Committee as well. You're well over 2 years since you're supposed to statutorily have been there, and subsequent visits have not been taking place either. So I hope you would attend to your statutory duties in that committee as well. One of the things that I'm concerned about, and we've talked about a little bit here in the last few of my colleagues this morning, was sanctions and how it all structured with China and that sort of stuff. And I asked this question maybe the last time you were here with regards to the possible invasion of Taiwan. We learned from Russia when it invaded Ukraine that we didn't really have a plan put together on how to put a group of sanctions together on different entities, whether it be oligarchs, the country itself, and we had to sort of, after the fact, get up to speed and get it done. I asked the question last time you were here, if you're putting together a plan with regard to China and its possible invasion of Taiwan. At that time, I got no response indicating to me that there is no plan. So since then, has the Treasury worked with Commerce, anybody else, to begin to put together a plan should China invade Taiwan?
So the National Security Council works with the interagency to make sure that it is in a position to address threats to our national security. Okay, and so I'm not in a position to be able to provide any details at all about what the response would be to hypothetical events pertaining to Taiwan. Okay. But I will say that this is something we work with other agencies to make sure that the United States is
okay. I understand you can't tell me anything more than just a yes. That's what I want to hear. Thank you. You've addressed a little bit about this next question with regards to China having access to the World Bank. It's kind of interesting, second largest economy in the world, and yet in order to be able to qualify for the loans, you got to be a low and moderate income country. I would assume you would agree that they are not a low and moderate income country?
Certainly, I don't think that they should qualify for World Bank loans.
I had a discussion today with the president of the World Bank, and I discussed this issue with him, how and why China continues to have access to this and why we can't stop this from happening. You indicated in your earlier discussion with some of our members here that you're working to try and stop that. Can you tell me exactly what you're doing to stop that?
Well, we will not support or vote in favor of any World Bank lending to China, so we use our voting to oppose it. And we have certainly worked to convince other countries in the World Bank to cease funding. And while there is some, it is a very small part now of the World Bank's activities. We believe it should
basically,
cease.
My understanding is we participate about 17% of the total, and China is roughly 2%, something like that.
I believe it's much lower than that, but I can get you a number.
Okay.
I think it's
significantly different in amounts of participation, yet they have been access to it. And because of our overwhelming participation, the amount that we have in there, we have an outsized voice on that in that board. Is that correct?
We do. We have.
Okay.
We have significant.
So we need to be exerting our authority to be able to our opposition on the board to put China back in its place, and that's what you're going to try and do. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. A minute ago, you said that you're seeking authorization to participate in some other international financial institutions. You need to be reauthorized every year. Is that correct?
I guess what I said is we would like permission to continue participating in the new arrangements to borrow, and we also seek permission to lend up to $21 billion to 2 IMF funds, the Poverty Reduction and Growth Trust and the Resilience.
Well, Madam Secretary, if we're going to be loaning money to these foreign financial institutions and the kind of money you're talking about, do you not believe that we need to have more control over them to make sure that entities such as China don't have access to them?
Well, we have substantial control over them. we have made sure that the structure of
this
these
is where we're gonna
funds,
go. If you
they
want
can't-
Arthur-
They cannot lend to China. The poverty reduction and growth.
The gentleman's
trust
time has
is only
expired.
for very low-income countries.
The Secretary